For many years now, Russ and Craig have had many wide-ranging conversations with folks from all over the gaming world. This is one of those conversations.
D6G, the Lost Chapter.
Hey, Russ, it's good to see you. Hey, make sure you get up there and get that new Christmas-themed donut, man. It's got like the chocolate frosting with the little Christmas trees and stuff on
the
it.
holiday wreath.
Yeah, I like
the
those.
holiday wreath.
I like those. I'm digging also all the cookie-flavored coffees they're offering at Dunkin'.
Yeah,
Christmas cookie
definitely get one of those.
coffees.
And make sure you get Craig a large iced coffee with 3 Splenda. No, wait, that's Dave. How do you take your iced coffee? Dave?
5 Splenda.
5 Splenda.
Light on the ice.
Why don't
5
you just stick a
Splenda,
donut
and
in there?
And
God, 5
8
Splenda.
cream, actually.
Just stick a donut right in the coffee. Put the sugar right in.
Oh,
Just inject it.
I've never denied that I drink coffee-colored sugar
water.
cream,
Yeah,
or
very nice.
cream sugar
Coffee-colored
sugar
I don't
cream.
think I've ever heard you say that.
Coffee-colored sugar cream.
There
is
you
what
go.
I
Well, I'm
drink.
glad you guys could make it because here, wait, pull that super heavy metal chair back.
Here we go. I got it all laid out.
Have a seat.
Very good.
Russ, get me a donut.
What do you want? What do you want? You want
I want the Christmas wreath.
the Christmas
please.
tree with the peanut butter or without the peanut butter?
No peanut butter.
All right.
No peanut butter. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
No
it.
problem. Got it.
So hey, I thought I would talk to you guys about holiday traditions that we do since we're in the holiday season.
All right, okay.
Season.
Have we not done this before? I
Is
feel
it
like we
is it
have,
gaming
but-
traditions or is it just general family, not gaming related holiday traditions?
Well, it's funny because mine I think is gamer related, which is why
Okay.
I thought of it to talk about today.
Okay.
But it's open to whatever. You can pick your favorite holiday tradition. But I think Russ, you have a gaming theme.
I got one that's modeling related. I'll
that's
do
what I
mine.
mean.
All right, fair enough. Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right, so I'll go. I'm dying to know if Craig has one. All right, so
I have a rock.
you have a Christmas pet rock.
That's the Halloween. No, that's the Charlie Brown Halloween.
That's the Charlie Brown.
He looks in his bag.
Charlie Brown Christmas tradition special.
I got a Musketeer. I got a Snickers bar. What'd you get, Charlie Brown? I got a rock.
I got a rock.
I got a rock.
Mine is something that my dad created, which cracks me up because he's not really gamery. Like if of my two parents, my mom would be the one that would play a board game with me, where my dad, he would play chess, but he definitely wouldn't want to play a board game. So he created this thing out of thin air where what he does is that he talks to Santa and he puts Santa writes a letter. It was to my brother and I when we were little, like 12 or so. And it'd be in an envelope on a tree written in Santa's hand. And it would be some sort of puzzle. It could be a crossword puzzle. It could be a scavenger hunt puzzle. It could be a fill-in-the-blank puzzle. It could be a Mad Lib. It was some sort of puzzle. And the tradition was that after all the regular gifts were opened, you had your envelope sitting up there staring at you, but you couldn't touch it yet. You then took a break for breakfast, okay? And in our house, a great holiday tradition was we would get lox, smoked salmon, but lox. We called it lox on cream cheese and on a bagel. And we would eat that. And, of course, my brother and I would always be eyeing that envelope going, what could that lead to, And we'd have to take time and eat for that. And then we had to take time and wait for my grandmother to come out with my aunt, and she would come out. And then they would have their little gifts that they would give. And then we would get to go break into those puzzles. And the theory behind it wasn't the best present that was there, like as far as most expensive or something. It was the most fun present. And what I really liked about it was it stretched out the fun of Christmas. So you didn't have, as a young boy, it didn't have that like, oh my gosh, I got this and I got Star Wars figures and I got that. Oh, it's over. And it just was really fun. And so I've, of course, do that for my kids, and they go bananas over it. They love it. And it's just really fun to see them. Even my 14-year-old teenage boy, who's, of course, in the phase where, his parents aren't cool or anything. And so even he looks forward to it every year, And it's fun as a dad to wink, 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 work with Santa on coming up with the stuff that's going to happen the night before.
That's very cool. So it's awesome. So your kids are still digging in. Now, how do you decide which present becomes the
Dad and Santa decide.
But and it's based on most fun. But is it
most fun?
But
what we
not
think will be
necessarily the one that's the number one on their list.
No, that's the fun part. Is it might not be.
So you look at yeah.
So yeah, because it could be that thing that you're like, oh, my youngest Emmys are like, oh, Emmy's asking, like, I think what was hers last year? I think for like 5 years in a row, she wanted to get a giant hamster ball, like a thing you blow up and can run around in. So and she never gets it. Like every year would pass, and Reese and I were like, are we gonna tell Santa about the Santa ball? And we're like, nah, not this year. But finally, the one year we did, and I think it was her hamster ball. So she didn't even know, in other words,
nice. Yeah, see, my oldest daughter, who's now 13, on the top of her list, since she was 6, the top of her list, every time she writes her list, the very first thing in capital letters with 5 exclamation points, pony.
She wants a pony.
Pony. I've explained there was really no place to put the pony, never mind the cost associated with the pony and the maintenance associated with the pony, but... yeah, so the pony is on the list all the time, and so that would be the cool gift. But I can't really get her a pony.
Yeah, so you could like wrap a horseshoe and then go to the barn. Now that's funny since Kit's the one that does the riding.
It is true. Well, Rose found riding first, but then got out of love with riding. Okay. Kit is passionate about riding, but Rose still wants a pony. It's on her list. Still wants one.
And I'm not going to be shy. I have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Please, anybody who's out there who wants to steal this tradition, please go do it because it's super fun.
That's cool.
I can imagine.
I wish I, and you mentioned to me once before a while ago, and I thought it sounded cool, and I never pulled the trigger on it. I feel like it's a little late now, but I should have. It would have been cool.
I don't know. I mean, it with Rose with D&D stuff, I could sort of see it. And again, it comes written in Santa's hand, and so there could be the wink, wink there. If Rose, I'm not sure where Rose is on that, but
yeah.
I'm trying to be cryptic.
Oh, no, they're still really cool about this. So, like, so we have an elf on the shelf. This is not our holiday tradition, by the way.
We have that, too.
But we have an elf on the shelf. Kids still very, very excited about the elf on the shelf, still excited to see him move, still very distraught if he forgets to move one evening because he's tired or overtired or it's been snowing out and he can't get back to North Pole, whatever the issue is. But, so this is funny. And to the point where, like, they know he shows up the day after Thanksgiving, and... they make little beds for him. So they'll go in their room and they'll make a little bed.
Oh, that's cute.
And then his name is Heidi, by the way. They named him. So his name is Heidi the elf. And so because he hides around the house. You see how that works. So so every once in a while, Heidi will go in their beds.
Ours is called Elfie.
But this is because the kids name them when they're 5 and they get very creative names like Heidi and Elfie. And then he's stuck with it for. So here's the first interesting comment, which I thought was hilarious. My youngest daughter, Kit. So this year, Heidi's moving around like normal. And Heidi ended up in the bathroom, hiding in the bathroom. And so Kit comes out. She goes, "Dad, Heidi's in the bathroom." I said, "Yeah, well, so what's your point? Maybe he's just trying to make sure, you're not being naughty in there or whatever." And she's like, "But it's kind of creepy. He's just, staring at me, smiling while I'm on the toilet."
It does have that weird eye creepy thing.
Right.
It does. Like it's looking out of the corner of its eye.
I was like, that is a good observation. It is a little bit weird. So the next night, of course, Heidi obviously overheard her concern and moved. And it was funny because she couldn't find him the next day very well. He had hidden really well. And she was all concerned she had offended him and he wouldn't be coming back.
Do you have Heidi, as we call Elfie, leave presents every now and again?
Once in a while. So
that's what we do too, just
sometimes,
once in a while.
Sometimes he writes a note, or sometimes he'll leave some Hershey Kisses or something.
I forgot. In case anybody wants to borrow and use our and please feel free to use our tradition. So, yes, Santa Claus writes a note too. He writes you a note of like how you've been for the year, like you've been a good boy and blah 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 blah. Yep.
So
little
cool.
pat on the back.
That's a good one, Raef. Well,
so does Reese have Elfie?
Yes. Well, it's funny you should mention that. We do have an elf on the shelf, and Reese was, I believe, was like 2.5, I think, when we got him. And so the naming was not super creative.
We all have that problem.
And surrounded by boxes, Reese named his elf on the shelf Boxy.
I love it.
That's awesome, actually.
So his name is Boxy, which I thought was cool.
Notice they all have a Y on the end.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
This thing, Heidi, Elfie, Boxy.
Yep.
Right?
And the examples in the book, I don't think have Ys.
No,
like
no,
Foodle and Kittle and Needle and Jew or Jewer and something. Now this year we actually had a little bit of a tiff because well, it's funny on a couple levels. Reese was like, "Daddy, I want to rename the elf." Like, what? I want to rename the elf. What do you want to rename him? Elfie.
Oh,
No way.
Elfie. And I was like, no. Like flat out denied it. No, you can't rename the elf. And he's like, why? And I was like, I'm not gonna have this conversation. And then he went and told his mom, I want to rename the elf. And so I hear from the kitchen, yeah, sure, no problem. And I'm like, no. And we get into a little fight, the wife and I.
Choose your battles,
and I'm like,
Greg.
you can't rename the elf. The elf is Boxy. He's Boxy. What is he gonna not? He gonna remember where he's supposed to go? And it was ridiculous. And I won.
What you got to say is we could send Boxy away,
right,
and request they send us down an elf named
but
Elfie.
then Boxy has nowhere to go.
But Boxy, what's he going to feel like? Then you say to your son, so Reese, right in front of his mother, Reese, how would you feel if someone sent you out of their home onto the cold streets?
Let's traumatize the kid.
Yeah, right. Well, you really,
but it's funny because then that night this all happened Thanksgiving Day,
right?
And then the next day, Boxy shows up. And we've already agreed that it's Boxy. And then I'm reading him the book, and Karen's in the bed, and Reese is in the bed, and I'm reading the book. And we get to the part where, he doesn't get his magic until you name him, and then he starts doing his job. And she looked at me and was like, okay, you're right. And now this year, there's a half-hour cartoon special about the elf on the shelf.
Yes.
And they make an even bigger deal out of the name, and they don't get any magic till they get their name, and then they have to learn their magic. And so I was like, hello, don't you guys understand how fantasy works?
Don't you understand how this works? You're going to destroy the elf.
Well, we have one. We have an Elfie situation as well, which is so they do you know there's like two versions of the Elfie? So we've got the like
there's the
male
the like
and female. Small impish looking one, and I think there's a bigger doll looking one.
Yes. There's one. Okay. Well, because they came out with I don't know if it's the same movie you saw, Craig. So about 2 years ago, there was another Elf on the Shelf movie, and he looked a little more doe-eyed. And they came out. So a new Elf on the Shelf was released that looks more like the doe-eyed version, right? So there's the one we all have, which is more of the traditional yet somehow creepy, almost creepy clown evil looking one.
Yeah.
And then there's the newer one that's less creepy, apparently.
Yeah, well, apparently,
and then there's a boy and girl now too. There's a girl Elfie and a boy Elf on the Shelf.
Oh yeah, now they have a girl Elf.
And then they also have costumes they can wear now, so you can dress them in a reindeer costume or various other.
Yeah, the distinction we have is that the first version, Elf version 1.0, you can't touch. It's part of the lore.
Right,
can't touch it.
Yes,
which I've always assumed.
But
was
in 2.0, you can touch 2.0.
Yes, apparently the doll one.
They upgrade their magic. Why would you want them? But the whole point of not touching the elf.
I haven't read the lore. But
A, they lose their magic if you touch them, and B, then they get I think the reason they don't want to be touched is that the kids can move them to a spot where they couldn't properly observe the shenanigans the kids are getting up to.
See, I always thought, thinking like a lawyer, that like the doll's clothes were like not kid safe or fire retardant.
No, it's because
the head
you got to think like a gamer. The elf's job.
They did it so
listen. This is very important. The elf's job is to observe the children being naughty or nice and report back to Santa. If I could touch the elf, I could just simply turn him around so he's facing the wall, and he would not be able to observe the children being naughty. And then I could turn him around again, so no one would be the wiser.
The elf can't be touched because if a toddler like sucked on its head, the paint's toxic. That's what I think it is.
Or that.
So they created this tradition of you can't touch it because they didn't want it for safety reasons.
Safety.
Yeah, totally. But apparently, Elf 2.0 you can touch. So Emmy's always like, I want my Elfie to be the second kind because she wants to touch it, but she will not touch that elf. Hasn't touched it once.
That's the title for the episode. Don't touch the elf.
Don't touch it. As a matter of fact, Elfie fell over today. Elfie was in the pantry sitting on a can.
Right.
And he fell over. And she was like, oh, Elfie fell over. And I'm
don't
like,
touch him. Dear God, woman.
Right?
Reese is the same way.
Right. Well, I've actually had that happen, and how we have corrected this issue is with long chopsticks. I got this. I'm not going to touch him. Stand back, everyone. I'm going to save the elf.
Oh my God! Were the girls watching you when you did this?
Yes, they were sort of in the room.
They were okay with it.
They didn't want to watch. They were nervous I was going to mess something up. But yes, that seemed to be okay.
That seemed to be okay.
The situation was saved. the other thing about the elf on the shelf, which is always great, the number of different excuses why the elf may not have moved the night before, which are always exquisite.
We remember, like, if we forget and it's 2 a.m., we're like, crap.
No, but
I don't know any good excuses.
But there are. I mean, have you never? Is it all? He's always moved every single time without.
He has, because what happens is if we wake up and the minute Emmy starts surfing for Elfie, and Maurice and I look at each other, we're like, crap, and so we divert her, and then the other one runs off and moves him real quick.
Well, the problem we have now
done
is
that a couple times.
The problem we have now is that because they make beds in their room, they expect Elfie to occasionally show up in the bed. When kids are younger, they're very heavy sleepers, so Elfie can get in and out of there with no problem and never be observed. When kids are older, they're lighter sleepers, and so it's more challenging for them to get in and out of there without being observed. And so there needs to be some sort of distraction system that Santa's worked out to distract the child from the fact that the elf is being inserted in their room. So,
what's some of the good excuses so I can borrow a couple?
Generally, it's related to weather.
Oh.
So he's got to get back magically to the North Pole. Fortunately, the cartoon has shown us that how the elf gets back to the North Pole is through flight.
I thought he teleported.
He flies back to the North Pole. Because of that, then I would think it's severe weather, and due to a lack of Rudolph, he can't always make it. Now, if he can make it on a night where there's heavy weather, then clearly Rudolph was available to give some elves a lift. But if it's really heavy, then he can't. The really challenging times are when it's a perfectly clear night and Elfie, for some reason, decides not to move. One time...
So what's the excuse for that one?
One time it was because he had decided to hide in our little curio cabinet, and he forgot to move, and I'm pretty certain it was because he could not escape the curio cabinet.
Oh, okay.
He had locked himself in there. So that night before we went to bed, I made a show of making sure that we opened and left the curio cabinet door ajar so that Heidi could escape. That was one of them. So those are the kinds of issues that Heidi's had with moving around the house.
Yeah.
And they can be challenging.
Does Reese get upset if Boxy doesn't move?
We're in the same situation you are. Boxy has never not moved as far as Reese knows.
Yeah.
And we'll distract him and we'll shift him, even if it's just a little shift.
Right.
And then we'll be like, oh, wow, he must have been tired when he got home and he couldn't from the North Pole and he didn't want to find a new place to go.
Spot.
Yeah.
But, and he's constantly like, no, if he falls, we can't touch him. He'll lose his magic.
See, the chopsticks, Greg, chopsticks.
Yeah,
so,
I don't.
So I have a different holiday tradition, although I do the Elf on the Shelf. So it's kind of like modeling. So my parents, my mom was always big into baking. And so at one point she used to be really big into baking various kinds of cakes. And so she would not only bake the cakes, but she'd try to do cakes like that were shaped like things, kind of like that are very popular now on the Cake Boss and stuff, but she would do this just for fun. So like she made a chess set cake for me one birthday, which was actually... The cake was a chess set, and then she made all the pieces out of marzipan and sculpted them herself and colored them. Like she was really into baking.
Wow.
So because of this passion for baking, and because we lived in Germany and became very passionate about German things, she and my dad decided that wouldn't it be cool if we started a tradition, this is back in like the late 70s, early 80s, to build a gingerbread house every year as a family. And so this is not like the little gingerbread house kits, that you go buy in the store.
Okay.
This was ground up. So to the point where my dad back then cut out a wooden, very thick board that is probably about a 2x4. So it's
what?
It's a big board, right? And this board has been since labeled, written in permanent marker, gingerbread house board, and it is transported, and now it is in my garage, and every year it gets brought out. And my dad also then, with my mom, they took some very nice, hard, good quality cardboard, like coated with laminated cardboard, and they cut out templates for the sides, the front, and the roof pieces, and the chimney pieces of this house.
Oh, that was smart.
And then you bake the gingerbread sheets, and we have the recipe my mom used, and you cut this stuff out. And so this house, though, is not a small one. It is probably a foot tall, and probably about 8 inches long, and about 4 or 5 inches wide. So it's a very large gingerbread house. And we do the whole thing where we cut out the windows and melt the clear candy, so you have the sort of the glass looking
cool.
windows. And then we decorate the house. And so when we were young, we get together with my cousin and my brother and I and she would decorate the house. And now we're passing this tradition on to our kids. So we always make sure sometime shortly after Thanksgiving, so it'll actually be next weekend, my brother's family and my family get together, and my niece and nephew, my daughters, all decorate the house. And actually all of us join in. It's a whole family thing. And every year, it's very much like modeling because we try to come up with themes and do different things. And so, for example, last year, sometimes it's leftover candy. So a lot of times we bring all the leftover candy out from Halloween and use it for that. Or, but once in a while we'll get a theme. Like one year, we got a bunch of shredded wheat. This is a pro tip for gingerbread house builders, by the way. If you can find the large shredded wheat, okay, the really big squares, you know what I'm talking about, and you cut those squares in half. If you lay them the flat side down, when you cut them in half on the roof and you layer them, you all of a sudden have a thatched roof. It looks awesome. That's easy to do thatched roof, for example. So we'll have themes like that. Or you take Necco wafers, which you don't know about unless you're from New England, those little round colored discs, and you can coat the whole roof in Necco wafers, and you get a really cool looking colored roof that way as well.
Oh, that's cool.
But so last year, I noticed for the first time, Pillsbury, or Pepperidge Farm, excuse me, came out with little tiny gingerbread people in a cookie box. So it wasn't like the gingerbread men, not those big brown, but they're little tiny ones, and they were very detailed. They had like clothes and faces and the whole thing. And you could buy a bag of these things, you know, for like $4, and it was like 50 gingerbread guys. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, this would be kind of a fun theme. So I brought this home, and now just so you know, in the past, some of the themes have been redneck gingerbread house. So my dad built a car up on blocks in the front yard and the whole thing.
That's awesome.
But this year, when I brought home this little bag of cookies, I'm thinking, oh, the kids will make like, you know, a family, and maybe they'll have like, you know, 4 kids in the front yard, some kids in the back. Maybe they'll do a school bus. We'll see what they do. We'll see what their imagination comes up with, right? Well, it didn't take long. About 30 seconds in, shortly after my nephew bit the head off one of the kids, that it turned into zombie attack gingerbread house.
Oh, nice.
And so there were like zombies everywhere, and Twizzlers became like the blood squirting out of the neck. I mean, the kids were like all into this. This is what happens when 12-year-olds are decorating gingerbread house. It was actually pretty hilarious. And so the death toll was staggering. But it was good fun. And so we've had a blast with this tradition, and we never miss it. The big rotation is that every other year, so one of the families, either my brothers or mine, makes the gingerbread house itself, gets it all set up, uses the same recipe used for the royal icing, which is the frosting that basically is the glue. So we glue that together, and then so this year it's our turn. We'll make it, and their kids will come over and we'll decorate it. And then next year it'll be my brother's turn, and they'll make it, and then we'll go over there.
I was just about to ask you that.
So it's a great excuse to get everybody together, sort of between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's just a really fun tradition, and the kids love it. And then we just leave it out in the house that got built in as a Christmas decoration, basically, until shortly after Christmas Day. And the only problem is that since it sits there all the time, it gets pretty stale, and so most of us don't really eat it. We tend to just kind of chuck it afterwards, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It sounds like
fun.
It's fun. So, Craig, what about you? Do you have a nice traditional holiday event that happens at all?
We don't really do. I mean, we have our normal traditions. Until Reese was born, my wife and I would go to my parents' house for breakfast, and we would spend the day with them. Now that Reese is born, we want him to have the
holiday breakfast foods.
No, just like scrambled eggs and bacon and toast.
All right.
I mean, I'm pretty boring. Yeah. Well, last night we had a big surprise party for my mother-in-law's 70th birthday party combined with her retirement party.
Wow.
And Reese's 2 cousins, the girls, he has 4 cousins on that side, 2 girls and 2 boys, and the girls brought a gingerbread house kit. Mm-hmm. Where it like comes with all the pieces, and you just glue it together with the frosting. And he loved making it. So I think I might start a little gingerbread house making tradition this year, because he's been loving watching me build all of the Frostgrave terrain.
So Craig, you should kick it up a notch with all your terraforming skills. You should pick. So the problem with not a problem, but ours is its disadvantage of it's always the same pattern, because that's the tradition. Well, you could start the tradition of making different shaped gingerbread objects, like a tower or
I'll have to look into it. I know nothing about gingerbread.
I would expect I'm looking for like a Falcon grav tank maybe, or
I wouldn't do
Land Raider
or anything. So
Land Raider would be easy. It's nice and square. You could.
Why would I do 40K at all?
I don't know.
That's weird. It's just weird that you thought that.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool though.
But yeah,
40K's got a lot of boxy vehicles. They work.
Ooh, boxy. There we go.
You see?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really, yeah. I mean, my wife is very traditional. So we have a very traditional, the big break with tradition this year, which started with a giant fight, was we don't have no one comes to our house on Christmas Day, but we host the big family, actually both sides of the family, on Thanksgiving. So she decided, since no one comes to our house on Christmas, and so no one sees our Christmas tree, and normally our tradition was to get the Christmas tree the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's our tradition, right?
Well, she decided she wanted to get the Christmas tree the weekend before Thanksgiving, so we would have it all up.
That's
so it would be
heresy.
all Christmassy, which I was against, and still kind of against, because it's like Thanksgiving, and a Christmas tree is not Thanksgiving. But I wasn't about to fight that much, and so we had a big Christmas tree this year at our Thanksgiving, and everybody was like, "Wow, a Christmas tree!" And it was very funny because we had the big fight, and then I gave in, and then we couldn't find a place to buy a Christmas tree from because it was a week before anybody buys one.
You have to go with artificial.
Nope, Lowe's. Actually, Lowe's gets their delivery the weekend before Thanksgiving, and they're not like set up at all. So you have to like go through all the bundled trees and guess which one might be good.
Right.
And then she this is a weird thing because this is an odd conversation I heard on the radio one morning driving into school, where these two female radio people, radio talk show people, were discussing whether or not they would be okay with an engagement ring that had been purchased at Costco. And all the guys were like, why wouldn't you be okay with an engagement ring bought at Costco? That meant, like, obviously it's going to be a nice ring, because for those of you who don't know, Costco is like a bulk. You buy things in bulk, but everything they have is like the top of the line. So you're going to get really good prices, but it's all really good stuff. And so the women were like, no, absolutely not. I would never, ever, ever accept it. I would return it. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, wow, and they were really adamant. So that was weird. So I had never really thought about it in my own life because it wasn't an issue back then. And so I give up on the whole Christmas tree thing. And I'm like, okay, but it's all you. You got to find I know. So we go to Lowe's and we're walking around and they're all bundled up. And I'm like, she's like, well, which one's a good one? You can't tell if it's a good one. It's all bundled up. I have no idea. And then we found one that looked good and it was going to be great. And then all of a sudden, like a switch went off in her head. I can't buy my Christmas tree at Lowe's. What? It was like it was going to be cheaper than at a regular, but oh no, all of a sudden that same thing must have kicked in. We can't buy our Christmas tree at Lowe's. So we had to go find one, and Russ will know exactly what I'm talking about. Raef, you might not because you don't know Nashua as well, but the old Building 19, Russ?
Yes, I do.
The building is still there, but Building 19 hasn't been there for like 10 years. But there was always a Christmas tree dealer, like a giant family-run Christmas tree dealership that worked out of that parking lot back when it was Building 19. And they still do it, even though the building has been basically empty and looks like something out of The Walking Dead for the past 10 years. I mean, there's weeds growing up through the tar and the parking lot and everything. And so we went down there, and it was hilarious because she found a tree she loved, and it was all. And again, they weren't all set up yet; they were all bundled up, and the guys were like running around, and giant trucks were whizzing by, delivering all these trees straight from Canada. And Karen's like, "Hey, could we buy this?" And the guy was like, you got cash? Because our machines aren't hooked up yet." And I was like, "See, nobody's ready to sell a Christmas tree," but they sold it to us. They took a check.
It. So I have before we run out of time here, I have a very critical question.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Okay, two critical questions. First, critical Christmas tree question number 1.
Yeah.
For both of you. Tinsel or no tinsel?
I like a small dash of tinsel. I don't like the big garlands or lots of tinsel.
Raef?
No tinsel.
Okay, I'm also no tinsel. I think Nicole would like tinsel, though. So this is something I have one on, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like a big, I don't need the tinsel, but Karen likes it, and I don't dislike it.
Nicole likes it. But so here's the second one. White lights or colored lights?
White lights.
Raef?
I like colored lights, but I get outvoted for white lights.
So I am a white light person, and I was winning the white light battle until about 3 years ago. And that is now switched because my daughter's ganged up on me. And so now the ladies in my house have ruled that we are now a colored light home. But I will lose that battle in favor of no tinsel because tinsel is just a pain to clean up. So
it is a huge pain to clean
Right.
up. This year, luckily, we didn't have any tinsel.
there you go.
And while we were putting it up, it went. Karen was like, "Well, what are we gonna do?" I was like, "Oh, we'll get it later." And so far, she's forgotten.
All right.
I have a question for Craig.
Yes.
Okay.
So is the buying the Christmas tree before Thanksgiving tradition going to continue?
It can if she wants it to. I don't.
Oh.
I mean, it was funny because everyone who came into the house made fun of it. So, but I think she liked it, and you know what? If that's what makes her happy, God bless her.
And you know what?
It's not
Caboose, Craig.
that
this
big a
way,
deal.
Craig. It's up. So after
It's that-
Thanksgiving, man,
see-
it's all gravy.
That's very true. I think the deciding factor will be if it lives to Christmas.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The
because
problem,
that's a long time.
That's right. The problem with the real trees is you really, going before Thanksgiving, you could run into trouble. That's why I think the artificial tree might be the way to go if this is the tradition you're going to have.
No, we would never go
Because
with an artificial tree.
See, that was my other question: artificial
Yeah.
or real?
No, always real.
And Rafe,
I could go either way on that because I've lived with both as a kid.
so I have both. Also,
I'm okay.
I now have artificial. I've had artificial now for probably 5 years. We went that way because of hypoallergenic. Actually, we discovered my youngest daughter who has asthma was starting to have reactions for the trees. Also, there were 2 serious spider incidents in the past.
Ooh.
I don't know if you guys have had this, but spiders, for those who don't know, will sometimes in the fall put egg sacs in trees.
Ooh.
And then when the weather warms in the spring, or you bring the tree into your home, the egg sacs will hatch because warm
Interesting.
weather.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing more fun, really, than chasing down thousands of baby spiders as they exit the tree and go to the roof where it's warm and wander all over the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
you
creepy.
you only need to have, and the funny thing about that is I never had that as a kid ever happen to me.
I've never had that happen.
It happened to us once when we were relatively newly married in our apartment, but we were like, fine, we'll just deal with it and keep going. Actually, yes, there was one time we threw the tree out. It was so bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The second time, I got on it faster and sprayed it with bug spray and killed it. But the time I had twice, that it was starting to tip Nicole into the favor of the fake tree with that happening. And then later with the allergies, that's how we went fake tree. I have to say, I love the fake tree now. It's so much easier because you just take it out of the attic, you set it up, boom, you're done. And it's actually kind of a tradition now. The kids hand me the little different branches, you snap them into place, and you build the tree.
I was going to say, is it the kind you like slot into the ground base?
Mine's the older style that slots. Now, my brother just upgraded his tree last year or the year before, where he's got the lights preloaded on the tree.
That's what I'm wondering.
So he just expands the tree. It's like an inverted umbrella.
It's like an umbrella, right?
Yeah, it goes, and the lights are on it. Now, the only problem, here's my complexity here with this. So here's another tradition. We have a lot of the really nerdy spaceship ornaments.
Yes,
so we have
yep.
like the Star Trek ornaments and the Star Wars ornaments. And the older ones of these all have little wires that plug into the light sockets.
Yep.
Right? And what you do is you remove the bulb and plug these in. And what I like about this is it adds more color to the tree because now all of a sudden your X-Wing's got engine glow and your nacelles on the Enterprise are glowing and it's just cooler. The battery-powered ones, the problem with the battery-powered ornaments is A, you got to push the button for to light them up, and B, the batteries always die. And these are like those triple or quadruple A batteries or where they are. They're like $1,000 a battery, so you never replace them. And so I like the powered ornaments. But the problem is on the pre-lit tree, they do some fancy non-standard light stuff where the powered ornaments wouldn't work. So I'd have to run a separate strand just for the ornaments, and then that gets complicated, so I don't know if I want to go that far. These are the complicated decisions you got to make.
Do any of yours talk?
Yes, they do. I have the Death Star that talks. Behold the firepower of the fully operational Death Star. I have that one. I have most of the Star Trek ones talk, so Spock will talk and Janeway talks.
I have the one where Spock talks.
Yeah, the old one. One of my favorite ones is there's a standing ornament of Kirk and Spock fighting the Pontar episode, and if you click it, it goes dun 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 dun. That's my favorite ornament.
That's awesome.
Oh, and we also have the. So now we're totally off topic. I have the old school Battlestar Galactica Cylon, and when you click his base, he'll say, "By your command," which is just awesome. So yes, that's my geeky Star Wars.
Yeah, I could see. So mine, I've just gotten lazy. I hang mine, but I don't plug them into the lights because inevitably then my lights short out or something happens.
The good news about light strands is they are now dirt cheap, especially if you buy them after Christmas. So they're like literally $1 for a strand.
Yeah.
So what I will do
it's almost
is
not even worth unwrapping them. It's just
I
like, toss them out.
really, it's kind of awful in terms of like landfill problems. But what I literally will do is every year after Christmas, I will buy 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll spend a whole whopping $5 on 5 boxes of lights for the following year. And so if I forgot, what'll end up happening is when I pop the lights out of strands, I will lose some of the light bulbs and not find them all. But so what I'll do is I'll consolidate the strand down. So strand A and strand B are both missing a few light bulbs. I'll put them all off strand B, repopulate all of strand A, throw strand B away, but I bought 5 more boxes of light, strands for $5. And I just keep doing that.
I have no luck. Once one goes out, I can't make it. I can't make
one light goes out, they all go out.
To me.
Yeah.
No, it's like last year. I think I threw out like 3 whole strands, and this year
that's why they're cheap. You just
hooked it up, and it was that. Well, that's why I'm not going to.
One thing that was really awkward though is a few years ago, the strands in general, the shape of the plugs in the strands changed slightly. The way they worked didn't change, but the shape changed slightly, which wouldn't be a problem except my old ornaments wouldn't plug into them anymore. So what I had to do was de-thread, because the way it works is there's really 2 wires going right through a little plastic-shaped doohickey, and the plastic-shaped doohickey's got to make the shape, the square peg round hole thing of the light. So when those changed, I had to re-thread, pull off the old plastic doohickeys and put the new ones on for the new light patterns. So one year I'm sitting there just redoing ornaments for like half a day, which was really fun. But there you have it. But so these are some of the holiday challenges. If you celebrate Christmas, these are the strifes we have as
I might be playing a little bit too much Fallout 4, but I'm now thinking that each of our little ornaments should just be powered with nuclear power.
That would be awesome.
Call
and
it a
dangerous,
day.
but it would be cool.
And then you
have
can get a tree like your brothers.
So it was fun to sync up with you here, Raef and Dunkin'
thanks.
Donuts. And we'll have you back on the big show here in about a week.
Sounds like a plan.
More traditions, Craig.
Right.
Start building gingerbread miniature war game.
Thanks for purchasing a D6G Lost Chapter. Supporting the show helps it grow.